PJNet.TV, 9 p.m. East Coast time in the United States. This is PJNet Live. Our bumper is running, and we are recording, we are streaming. We have Ben Cooper standing by, and the chat room is waiting. We'll start a countdown to Studio 14. Well, good evening and welcome to Tuesday here on PJNet.TV. If you are watching this and it's Tuesday about 9 o'clock on the East Coast, you're watching it live. You might be seeing it on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, who knows? Or you might be watching it later. Either way, we're so glad that you have joined us this evening, and we promise not to disappoint you. That's a pretty low standard. We're going to do more than not disappoint you. We are going to enlighten you. We're going to encourage you. We're going to inform you. And we're going to have a good time because Ben Cooper comes our way all the way from the great state of Pennsylvania, where you have been visited upon by bugs. You have been visited upon by cold weather. You have been visited upon by part of the PJNet family. And now you're visiting upon us. So what peril brings you here tonight?
Other than my normal first Tuesday of the month peril, just a pleasure to be here. And I know a lot of our PJNet family are at some Ridge Crest fancy
some party going on that we weren't invited to, I guess.
Well, I was invited to it, but I didn't want to have to pay the price to go. But in lieu of being going there, I had a couple passers-by, travelers, that, if you will, that
hobos they used to call them,
stopped by. Yeah, well, I think they had a car, so they weren't hitchhikers. They were just sojourning, traveling through, and had a lot of stops. But last Wednesday, Sherry Lynn and Rachel stopped by. They actually got into some bees. I opened up one of my beehives and showed them some things. Rachel was a little bit nervous, and I kind of threw the gauntlet down. I said, well, Rachel doesn't want to go out because she's a little bit fearful of them. Well, that's all it took. She said, no, she's not going to do that. But Sherry Lynn, I think, would have dove head first in to the hive. Might have been her military training. I don't know, but they got to see some bees up close and personal, and they obviously got to take a quart of honey with them when they, each of them when they went. So there was some benefits of that, but had a great time, encouraging. They were encouraging to me. I was encouraging to them, just being able to meet for the first time face to face, even though we're family here. Mm-hmm. And off the PJNet air, we contact and talk to each other all the time, but just a joy. I don't know. Now, Rachel was away for 2 weeks, came home for a couple days. I think she said hi to her son and her husband, packed her bags, and then left for another 2 weeks. I guess so. But she'll have to tell you about her escalades in Tennessee when she's back on, because she met with some people to help spur her on with her book. And I just been praying for our PJNet family that are represented at the Blue Ridge Conference, because several of them are up for SALA awards, and they are most worthy writers, in my opinion. And I just hope that they do well. They don't get discouraged if they don't win. But it's a pretty good event. I think with COVID, there's still about 400 people there. And Frank Peretti, well-known author, is the one keynote speaker there. So just wish them all well. We're hoping Doug gets some traction on his book. And, you know, I just, it's all about supporting our PJNet family and the other Christian authors that we know. And I just hope that it turns out well for all of them.
Well, we have, as you said, representatives. I would think more like ambassadors, but in either event, Doug actually had, when he visited the Eagle's Nest here on occasion, on 2 occasions actually. I think other than my dog and my wife, he's about the only one that's ever been in here. And I gave him a handful of PJ Net lapel pins. So he's got a few of those, and I said, be sure to get these to the PJ Net family. But I said, be stingy with them. Don't, not everybody gets one of those. And I hope that they get them, and I hope they wear them proudly. Now, speaking, you mentioned the keynote speaker, but you have some knowledge of keynote speakers. You would know a good keynote speaker if you were to hear one. Would you?
I've heard some in my day. I've heard some good keynote speakers. Yeah, I have. And rumor has it I'm supposed to be one in 2.5 weeks.
What?
Um, that's
What?
an event that is uh, in Western Ohio, northwestern Ohio, west of
Uh-huh.
Toledo.
Uh-huh.
In a It's a community event at a church. It's only its third time, but last year it was not allowed to happen, and
Right.
because of Cynthia Mendenhall reading my book and suggesting me to be a speaker and to wrap up. But
Really?
it's a unique event. It's an outdoor activities event. Starts at 9 o'clock.
Like anvil
Goes
anvil
till
throwing
probably
and hatchet throwing and
no. It's how to work with crossbows, fish,
really?
flying. I try to get maybe if our octopus on roller skates wasn't so busy, she
Uh-huh.
might be able to. She's Bedford, Indiana is quite a bit away. It's about four or
Yeah.
5 hours away. But there would be things hunting, fishing, everything, hiking, camping, knife sharpening, tie flying, all kinds of stuff. I'm going to do two activities with more kid related, but adult as well, with some animal related stuff. And then at 3:30 on this is happening June 19th in Delta, Ohio.
Hmm.
Not familiar with that place, but um,
You would
then at
be.
3:30 I will be wrapping it all up together, basically giving an encouraging message to believers and an evangelistic message to those in the crowd. It's a community outreach, expecting 400 to 500 people in attendance, and then I'll be speaking at their church uh, in a Sunday school hour for adults the next day.
Well, Ben, we can go a little extra time tonight. If it'd be okay, you reminded me of a story that's one of the high moments in my ministry. And I just wanted to have, it sounds a lot like what I wanted to do, just have a chance to reach out to unchurched people. It's hard to get unchurched people to come to church because they have kind of an aversion to it, or they may have some misconceptions about it, and that's causing some aversions or some preconceived notions, whatever. And I thought, well, here's what we'll do. A friend of mine has a farm and he had a skeet launcher. I said, well, let's have a skeet shoot. And that way we can invite unchurched men and just hang out with them and just have a community outreach. You know. And we planned it, and the day came, and hadn't rained in about 3 weeks. But it rained that day. It rained good. I did not know how many people were going to be there. I'd have been glad to see 12. You know, we had about 75 people come out in the rain, and my phone was ringing off the hook, saying, when are you going to reschedule? So we rescheduled again. Well, and it sounds a lot like the event you're describing, because we thought, okay, well, we'll have some dog training exhibition, trained hounds. Um, Life Flight came in and landed in the field out there. We had a hot air balloon. We had arm wrestling contests, skeet shooting. Gosh, we must have burned, I don't know how many cases of ammunition. But it was just a really good chance to reach out to unchurched people and say, just come hang out with us. It was just, it was a family event. I mean, it started out as a skeet shoot for the guys, but it turned into an event like you're talking about with hundreds of people, and of course the outdoor cooking, and oh gosh, those were such good times, and I'll never forget it. In fact, I still stay in touch with Mark Winchester. You may, he took we anyway. that's my story, and that used up all your time. But we can go a little late. But it sounds like a great time, and
I was gonna ask you what's the boldest thing you ever did? Was that one of the boldest things, and when was that?
well, it was there was some boldness to it because I went to our church and wanted the church, to announce it, and they wouldn't do it. And because it's not, is this approved by the Southern Baptist Convention? I said, no, we're just having a skeet shoot. Community outreach. You ever heard of it? And I had some things printed up. I was going to put them in the men's restroom above the urinal. That's kind of a captive audience there. And they thought that was just a horrible idea and wouldn't allow me to do it. So I printed up some business cards that are the, safety orange, with the date and then a little map on the back how to get there. And I discreetly passed those out, to, a dozen or so people, not knowing. And I don't know where all those 100 and something I don't know where they came from. But it was a real thrill because it was a chance to work with some people that were not regular. They didn't have a church home. They didn't think church was for them. And it was just a chance to let them know that, yeah, we like to have fun too. We like to blow up stuff and, pull pull the legs off of spiders, granddad long legs. Oh, speaking of bugs, you have had an encounter with bugs. Now, you've written a book, All Nature Sings, which I had the pleasure of reading. I think I won that in a contest, fair and square, you said. It was truly fair and square.
Yep.
And you followed up with another book, Created Critters with Wings. And tonight you send me pictures of a created critter with wings. I recognize that. I don't know what you call them up there. We call them locusts down here, but I know they're not a locust.
Well, yeah, we're going to get into it because people will say, that's a locust, but its genus and species is periodical cicada or cicada. And that's a newly hatched one. And, when I was watching some of these, I filmed one that was actually hatching. It was coming out and actually picked it up while it's crawling out. And those wings, it's amazing how quick they unfold. Mm-hmm. Because for that short period of time, they are vulnerable to our chickens mm-hmm. and anything else that likes bugs, a lot of birds. And squirrels will eat them. I've been seeing posts where squirrels are eating them. Humans, yesterday, we had some family over, fired up the grill, and there's mature cicadas all around. And I said, I'm willing to grill it. Is anybody willing to eat any? I couldn't get any takers, but there are quite a few people that will fry them up, eat them, use them for fish bait.
I was going to say they make great fish bait.
Right now, we had, a lot of people really like those. But we had, I posted on a short video of that one that just on Facebook, my story of that one that just emerged and hatched, and it's amazing how small and how frail they are. But right now, most of the males have started singing. The mm-hmm. females don't sing. Mm-hmm. We might call that noise, unwanted sound, but I'm going to try to mimic as close as I can the sound that they make, because you can hear it and it sounds like they're turning off and on, but it's a vibration that they use in their body. They vibrate and make a resonating sound that sounds somewhat similar to what a cricket does, but it's called a timbal. It's like a ridge. I would try to, a picture image would be the old clothing washboard.
Okay.
And if you imagine running a stick up and down the washboard, and that's used to vibrate and make the noise. But it sounds, what I hear outside during the day, even sometimes above the lawnmower or the weed whacker, is this sound. and it's just going on. That's the male song trying to lure a female to it. And we kind of mistakenly call it locust. And looking at the biblical term locust, locusts were plagues. They devastated crops. One of the plagues of the 10 plagues in Egypt was locusts, that they ate everything. The locusts, if you want to call the cicada locusts, they're not eating
Right.
anything. There's thousands of them, literally thousands of them, and that carcass, or that shell, as I call it, they emerge out the back and peel that off, and so they come out of the ground as a from a 16 years of a grub, 16 and a half years of a grub worm. That also makes good bait for fishing, and they emerge. And this is brood X. There's different broods based on location wise where you are, and they have their limits of where they come out in mass forces. So brood X is pretty much all emerged right now, and they come out, they molt, they come out as looking like an adult, but they then molt again. They look like that brown carcass or shell. Then they molt again, and the males will go almost like a perch and be up on something, and they will make that singing sound, and the females will go to them. The only defoliation that you get, they're not eating plants. They've eaten in the ground for 16 and a half years. It's all about reproduction right now for this short window of time. And they come out of the ground and they mate, and then the female will actually chew the very ends of the tree branches, and she lays eggs in the part that will drop off. It's nature or God's way of pruning back some of the wild trees, some of the domestic trees, but they're not eating grass or crops or anything else. They're eating trees. They lay their eggs inside that can be a layer of the piece of limb that's really small. Pencil size is about as big as what they'll lay into. And then it hinges down, dries, drops to the ground. Those eggs hatch out, go into the ground for another 16 and a half years.
Kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, species is the only thing I remember from the 8th grade, Ben. But you mentioned the binary nomenclature, which is the last two, the genus and the species. We are Homo sapien, but generally that's
right.
But I remember that.
They're periodical cicadas. Yeah. And pretty much there's only three. There used to be, well, they keep adding to plant kingdom, animal kingdom, and there's these single-celled things and amoeba type stuff, but I think some fungi and some others, but basically animal and plant, and those two that you saw on a telephone pole, that was a recently hatched one as well, and they wait till they form those wings, grow those wings out into that. My garden is littered with wings, just the wing parts. They're gone. I don't know if other critters are eating the center parts and leaving the wings, but they can be pretty scary looking if you come up to them or they land on you, but they're not going to hurt you. Their whole goal is reproduction. That's what they're coming out of the ground for, and they're low on the food chain, and a lot of things like them. And so their goal is to mate and reproduce and then go into the ground for another 16
Go
and a
back
half
in their
years.
hole. Not unlike you
Back
and
in
me.
their hole.
Yeah. I was almost going to Google it, but I'll ask you. I have a fascination with dragonflies. Here in Florida, we have a real problem with mosquitoes, and a dragonfly can eat dozens and dozens and dozens in a single night. And I was wondering, is there anybody that farms those? Because I would be interested in. You do bees, I'll do dragonfly. And I was this
You
far
gotta have,
away from one today. He was sitting on a like a fence wire, and I just sat there and looked at those big old eyes.
Sometimes they'll land on you if you're still enough, or if you've got a little bit of food source on you, they'll land. But I think, according to the last couple of weeks of JD and his muck sucking
Yeah.
boots off his feet kind of story, you need that wet ground around you to be farming that, because of their larva stage. And up here, we have some swampy ground, but wherever you have that same type of environment habitat, you also have the the
The
mosquitoes
mosquitoes.
and the other stuff that like that stagnant type water to
Hmm.
reproduce in. So that's teeming with all kinds of bugs that you don't like. It would probably, I don't know a whole lot about cicadas. um, Julie Lavender's husband is the bug man.
Uh-huh.
That he would be the guy
Yeah.
really to probably educate all of us on that. But uh, one of the things, going back to scripture, people will say, well, is that picture that you just showed, is that what John the Baptist lived off of when he was in the wilderness and when he was eating locusts? Locusts would be more, in Strong's Concordance, at least one of the references, be more like a grasshopper,
Grasshopper.
what
Yeah.
we would know as a grasshopper.
Yeah.
Um, and some will say even one of the other references was cricket. But there are several different types of locusts that they refer to in the Old Testament, and it isn't a cicada,
Yeah.
because
But
they
they
come
are
out and they don't
voracious.
eat. They might,
They, yeah.
yeah, they might eat underground,
Hmm.
the roots and some
Right.
other things
Hmm.
of plants, but they're not defoliating except for when they lay those eggs. And so, there's a lot of different connections, biblical connections you can make with that. That, how does that critter know that it's year 17? If we would go back into Job, Job kind of um, gets taken to school, so to speak, in the last two chapters by God. Where were you when all this was created? Who said, how do you show me how to stop the waves from coming only so far up the beach? And they don't keep coming. They go back and they cycle back. Or, you show me where the beginning and the end of a cloud is, and you tell me how that happens. Uh, you know, there's so much that we don't know. And I just think that what an interesting thing. And they all don't do it 17 years from California to New Jersey. It's not all one batch that comes out every 17 years. It jumps every year somewhere in the United States, or in
Oh,
the Americas.
yeah.
There's a brood that hatches out. And otherwise they would defoliate, or trim back all the trees,
Hmm.
and there would be too much competition. So who tells them brood X or brood 10 would be the
Yeah.
one that would come out this year in this location, and how far before is there overlapping? There's a funny meme that I used to have on my work computer that had two dinosaurs talking, and it just started to rain for the first time in history, and they saw this big wooden structure floating out, and they said, "Oh darn, that was today, wasn't it?" They kind of missed out. They forgot that, oh yeah, they were supposed to go onto the ark. And maybe that's why, one comical way of why they um, are extinct. But
No, the real reason is
only
they didn't have coffee. That they didn't have,
probably.
Ben, do you
um,
know, going back a little bit, when I was growing up, there were basically two countermeasures of mosquito control. There were three, but two of them are similar. One is the DIY version, and the other one is the serious one. But the DIY version was a special muffler you could screw into your lawnmower's engine block, and it had a threaded adapter where you could run a hose to it, and you would put diesel fuel in a tank, and that diesel fuel would drip onto that hot muffler and expel just smoke, just smoke. Now, the grown up version, the city, I can remember when the city, bug spray truck would come around. it would be bellowing smoke, and we would ride our bicycles, and you couldn't see your hand in front of your face behind that thing, and we're just inhaling all this diesel exhaust, but it was the same thing. It was diesel. The other means of controlling it were to kill the larvae. They, as you know, Ben, but for the benefit of those out there that aren't entomologists and biologists like Ben, mosquitoes begin their life underwater as a little larva, and they stick their tail up to the surface to breathe. Mm-hmm. So the countermeasure was they would just dump 55-gallon drums of diesel into the lakes, and it would create surface tension. And we lived through all this.
They plug their snorkel.
Yeah. And here we are. Now they're worried about using lead shotgun, shot. Because it's killing the ducks or something. I don't know.
Yeah, you wouldn't get too many mosquitoes with the shotgun.
Oh, we shouldn't with low brass 8s here, Ben. They're target practice.
That's because they're so much bigger.
Yeah, but I'm making friends with the dragonflies, and I really appreciate them. And they are so beautiful. The wings are so delicate, just like this bug that you're featuring tonight. And you just marvel. And their eyes, they got those big bug eyes, and you wonder, can they see behind them? But they're pretty friendly. They'll come right up to you. And
I'll someday have to send you a picture of the side of my barn where I've taken old ceiling fan blades, and I've made the end of a piece of decking where you walk down the steps and have that rounded pole at the end, and painted it up as a dragonfly. And I've got some more to paint up to put on each of the sides of my barn, to put some bees and some other critters along the sides of my barn, I call that barn art or ag art. But that's what we do in the sticks when we're bored to death, because there isn't much here. But I'm just amazed at how much detail our Creator has placed in something that we only get to see every 17 years, unless we move around and catch those other brood that hatch when we move to different places. But if you would realize that there's a specific time for everything under the sun. There's a time to be born, a time to die. And we could go back to scriptures like that God is a God of order, not chaos.
Right.
And every year, like clockwork, or every 17 years, in my location, brood X is going to come back and come back. And that also got me thinking of how long it is. Jesus said he'd come back, and we can take that to the bank as well. We don't know that year. No man knows the time, but I guarantee you, just look outside, look at the news, look what's going on in the world, and look what's going on with 2,000 missiles being launched at Israel. The time is getting closer and closer for that reappearing of Christ, just as he promised, the second advent. And that should give us hope. That should give us encouragement, rather than being beat down because of what we see going on in the world.
Well, as they say in Star Trek, beam me up, Scotty. This is getting to be quite a mess out here. Ben, we haven't talked about your book, Created Critters. That's a mouthful, Is that the first of a series?
Yeah, the second, Created Critters with Wings, came out last November. Mm-hmm. Created Critters with Fur is at the publishers right now.
Okay.
They've got a queue of people that is lined up. I think there's 10 books in front of me. Mm-hmm. But Created Critters was my first children's picture book, but it also was Shine a Light's first children's picture book.
Really?
And I think one of Dell's clients has a book coming out right before 4th of July, talking about a lot about the Liberty Bell and the 4th of July. But he has a book coming out, one of the first of books that he has. I think he has a couple, but they are working with some pretty new. Monty Hobbs is with that same company,
Okay.
and we haven't seen Monty on PJ Net for a while, but his book was produced through there. But hopefully, I'm trying to hopefully get this out by August,
Mm-hmm.
and so it'll be available for homeschool. But the publisher, Shine a Light, really does something, and I got to show Sherry Lynn and Rachel this. They've never seen it before. They took my book, Created Critters with Wings, and Andrea Elston created an activities book
Mm-hmm.
and used every animal that's in my book and created worksheets. And because they target homeschool
Right.
audience, that's their main target. And so she created a companion book that used the same cover
Uh-huh.
with my book. And she's going to do the same thing with Created Critters with Fur. And the third one, I already know what the third one in the series is because she's already done an activities book, but doesn't have a children's picture book to go with it. So I'm going to do my next project will be Created Critters from the Arctic. And it'll focus just to animals from a general location. And I don't think since last month, since I was on last time, I was extended an invitation to write for Guidepost. And that is for 2023. They have a publication, a devotional, 365-day devotional that's called All God's Creatures. And so there's some people that have been on PJNet that are part of that as well and write for that. And so that's another literary page to my resume, I guess. So I will. It's pretty tough to get into Guidepost, and
Yeah. Yeah.
and so I got in, and I've got some devotions. I got an assignment. I have deadlines, and so last time we talked about getting in with Vine Words, and
Right.
now I'm in with Guidepost, and so starting to get busy with the writing stuff.
I have a theory, and it's extra biblical, so you can think whatever you want, but I believe it with all my heart. Uh, Jeremiah 29:11 says the following: For I, the Lord, knows the plans I have for you, plans to prosper you, not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future. Well, that's one of the most encouraging verses that I have ever encountered, and I think that I have clung to that with bloody fingers and white knuckles from time to time. But I have a theory. If it is true that God has a plan for you, I don't think you're going to die until that plan is accomplished. And I also believe that once that plan is accomplished, you're going home. And as you were telling these stories, when we first met, you were just the honey man, and so many doors and opportunities are opening for you. My thoughts were taken back to a time before I knew you, that you had not one, but multiple close encounters with death. But God wasn't done.
Right.
And I believe that with all my heart, Ben. It may just be me, but
Yeah,
folks,
I agree with you, and I echo those same thoughts that too easy. The odds were stacked against me with that first cancer. Survival wasn't. It was more if you believe in the polls and the odds, but God's above all that. But we've said this many times, but God,
but God,
and He's preserved me and embellished and blessed me beyond measure, more than I can imagine. And I've been praying for speaking opportunities, and it started, and then COVID hit, and so
yeah,
it's been slowly starting to
yeah,
pick up.
yeah.
It's been slowly starting to pick up, and I've got something at least through the summer, um, May, June, July, and August. I've got things scheduled to speak. So as long as I'm here on planet Earth, I'm going to keep doing what God wants me to do and hopefully be faithful.
Well, Ben, I was, in prepping for the program tonight, I was looking at some stuff that's kind of laying around dormant, equipment. And I'm thinking, gosh, all the money that I invested in going to Christian writers conferences and doing videos. We bought a camper, for crying out loud, so my wife and dogs could go with me, and we could, we took that camper on one trip, and then COVID. And I'm looking around at all this stuff, but then I'm also, with some regret, but I'm also excited about, that door may have closed, at least for a while, but look at the other doors that open, because it's so easy to look around and say, oh, we can't do this, we can't do that. And those are true statements, but that's not what you live by. You live by what you can do. And God has a purpose in every life. You don't have to be facing death to realize that, I hope. Maybe that's what it would take. And I'm reminded our prayers, before Ben comes on the air, he always has a moment of prayer with me. And, we mentioned JD and Diane. The news is good so far, and everybody's optimistic. But I'm also reminded that one of our family, Becky Lindsay, is just fighting, and what a champion she is being through this, and she, even through this, continues to encourage, continues to inspire, when so many people would just be angry, and she may have her moments, I don't know, but it's a glorious thing to see what God is doing in the individual lives, and what God's doing by connecting us together here. I mean, I know there's not legions of us. I kind of wish there were sometime, but on the other hand, if there were, we wouldn't be as well acquainted, I don't think, with one another. And I'm glad that we've got ambassadors. I mean, literally ambassadors at this. I was trying to explain to my wife. I haven't been, but I said, Renee, this is the Macy's Day Parade of Christian Writers Conference. Speaking of which, I have an announcement. Remember I said what you can't, it doesn't matter what you can't do. Okay. I began this process in this animation stuff, and you have to render it. Okay. Each second of a video is actually 30 images, 30 still pictures. So I pressed the button to start. It took 16 hours. 16 hours to produce a little 14-second video. And I thought, this is ridiculous. So, we've had a guest on our program who appears in the Macy's Day Parade, and he has a book, Good, Better, Best. Well, he contacted me several months ago saying, he would like to have the opportunity, his book's out, and he'd like to have the opportunity to share. And I hope it's okay if I just admit I kind of brushed him off and said, well, here, send me a copy of it. I'll read it, and then we'll talk about it on the air. Well, this book has sat here for weeks and months. I had 18 hours or 14 hours. You know what I did? I read this whole book from front to back. I would read a chapter, do some pull-ups. Read a chapter, do some pull-ups. So I was studying when I could see the end of the chapter coming out. Let me reread this. Here we go. This book is very inspiring. So probably around the middle of the month, we are going to have Donnie Willis on the program, and it's going to be a special edition. It's going to be a full hour. Ben, this is a book. Well, okay. Let me say this. When you guys that write, you think of everything, okay? You send your book, and you send the book marker, okay?
Yep.
Well, this book did not come with a book marker. So this is the book marker. I like these new colored highlighter pens a lot better than the black ones I used in college before I flunked out. Every page, Ben, every page, I've got a note. Wow. Wow.
We might see
Wow.
we might see them in a meme or something, um, just like you've done with my book and other people's book. As you read it,
Yeah.
and something speaks to you, you post and
Well,
make a posting of it. That's encouraging to the author, and obviously, it's encouraging to you.
well, it holds me accountable. If you don't see me post, I'm making it public. I did my devotional. That's what I'm saying. And I'll share it with you. Ever hear these people say, "Oh yeah, man, my quiet time with God. That's really I really benefit from that. I love my quiet time with God." You know what my answer is? Then why are you keeping it a secret?
Prove it.
Share it, please. Which I don't know if they're really telling the truth or not, but this is not a devotional type
Or
book.
there's people that say, "Yeah, I'm praying for you,"
Oh,
but do
I
they?
quit saying that. I quit saying that. You know what I do now? I pray
Just
for them.
pray.
Just pray. Because sometimes I say that, and I really don't mean to pray for them. It's just the church thing to say, But sometimes I did, I'm going to pray for you. And then life, and 20 minutes later, it's off the radar. It's gone. It's not that I'm ADHD. It's just life. So I just if I feel compelled to pray for, I prayed for you this morning, Ben. I have a little. It's not a list, but I was just thanking God for the people that He has intersected me with, and we have. It's a pretty diverse group in many ways, even though we share a lot in common. But each person has something special, something different, something diverse that they bring that I think that could characterize each one. We all have our brand, I guess you would say. But anyway, all right. Well, it's a it's a quarter till. Did we go long enough?
Time
Wrap it
goes
up.
fast.
Yeah, Ben. Wrap it up for us. What's it going to be when you come back next month?
Next month, I'll be. I think it's my birthday.
You think it's your birthday?
Is Tuesday, July 1st. I hit a major decade in a month from today.
Well, Thursday, the 1st of July is on a Thursday. Yes.
Oh, okay. So it's not. There's something else I got scheduled on my birthday, but July 1st, I turned 60 years old. Uh,
Ben,
I know all those people that I graduated with that look 10 years older than me,
uh-huh.
but yet I turned 60 years old on in a month. So, uh, Lord willing, I make it that far, and I'm anxious to share what happens in Ohio. And the church is Shiloh Church Union or Christian Union is. I'll be out of Delta, Ohio, and who knows between now and then what more things Coach. If you do something just like this graphic work that you're working, and if you do it well, you know what your reward is?
Having done it well, whether anybody notices it or
No,
not.
no, no.
Well done.
You got more to do. You'll have more to do. You do that well, then you'll get more on your plate. You'll do and more. So the reward for good work is more work to do
Yeah.
until God calls us home.
Okay.
And
Well, I'm going to
so
do a little.
we never. I retired from my government job, but I haven't retired from the work that God's called me to do. So I'm just letting Him blaze a trail and following, trying to keep up.
Well, there's only one other person on earth that has seen this, what I'm about to show you. I worked all night on this, and it's starting to come together. But there, folks, is one frame of a video, a single frame.
I recognize that book.
Uh-huh. I think that's one of our family. And
Yep.
that, folks, is one frame of about, it'll wind up being about 12 seconds, something like that. So in each second, there are 30 frames, and there are 10 seconds, about 300 frames. Yeah. And I did that unassisted. No tutor helped me. I learned it, and it's I cannot wait. And we may see some of the things I've been working on tomorrow, because several, well, not several, but one in particular, a person that is a finalist for a SELA award. Uh, if that person gets that award, they want to use the video, the water fountain video that has not been made public. I've shown pieces of it, but it's going to be used as the vehicle to announce that award on social media. So I hope they win. I really do. So
I do too.
yeah, it's great. Well, Ben, I'm glad we got to get a little extra time in tonight. Ben, folks, Ben is one of the faithful members. Last night, everybody's gone. It's Memorial Day. It's the Blue Ridge, you name it. But Ben was faithfully here last night, along with Barbara and Steve. Or anyway, but Ben, thank you for your faithfulness, and you're just you so freely offer yourself in so many ways, and we appreciate you sharing with us, every month here on PJ Net, and we can't wait to do this again about this time next month. What do you say?
All right. Thanks, Coach.
All right, folks, Ben Cooper on his visit to there you have the PJ Net, the Eagle's Nest itself, where this broadcast originates from our studio. And we got to get a little extra time in tonight. I'm glad we did. I enjoy, Ben is a wealth of information. If you are ever on a game show and Ben is another contestant, just go ahead and forfeit. You're not going to win. You can't. The game is rigged at that point. Okay. Anyway, and he's always so generous to share, and always not just information. There's always a spiritual light that is cast on that information, and we enjoy him and his ministry. I'm happy for him. He's got speaking engagements. I know that's been on a goal of his for some time, and I'm not only happy for him, I'm proud of him, and I hope you are too. And I didn't know he was so young. I didn't realize that I was way his senior. Way his senior. He should start calling me sir, I believe. But anyway, all right. Well, folks, I'm gonna wrap it up. I had 15 minutes of sleep last night. I am furiously working. Not furiously. I'm enjoying every moment of it on a project, and I'm just thrilled at the opportunities that God is putting in front of me and of PJ Net and for all of us together. And so I hope to be putting some. It's kind of ready. It still needs some work, but a lot of the work, the heavy lifting is done. The heavy lifting is done. We're down to lighting and camera angles and zoom and pan and blur and fade. The stuff that I love. I'd rather do this than eat when I'm hungry. I'm telling you. And believe me, I eat when I'm hungry. I do. Well, folks, it's been joyous tonight. And before I leave, let me remind you of two questions that they've been important in my life, and they've been a guiding force in my life. And I want to offer them to you if you will take the challenge to answer these two questions. What is the boldest thing you've ever done for Jesus Christ? And how long ago was that? See, the goal is to never be satisfied with either answer.